Anybody who knows me or this program knows that I believe two things. The first is that we absolutely need an investigation, a thorough, fair, and impartial investigation into all the questions that have been raised about Donald Trump and Russia and about Russia's possible involvement in the 2016 election. We need that for many reasons, most of the primary of which is that, of course, the American people deserve answers, and right now we don't have them. So the first thing that people know is that, yes, I think we need a special prosecutor. I think we need an independent commission to look into Russia. But the second thing that anybody who knows this program knows is that I also think the Democrats have gone mad, and by the Democrats, I mean a series of establishment Democrats, in blaming everybody but themselves for the outcome of the 2016 election. This charade has now gone into outright neo-McCarthyism on the part of the Democratic Party, and it needs to stop. Perhaps the most conspicuous evidence of this rise of Democratic fake news, to complement the fake news we're getting from the Republican side, is the rise of one Louise Mensch. Louise Mensch is a former romance novelist turned British member of parliament, turned conservative pundit, a would-be conservative pundit, got some funding to start a right-wing website called Heat Street, but she is now the darling of liberals because she pursues and spreads the wildest of conspiracy theories. She has spread hundreds of them. She has accused many people of being Russian agents. She has only been right about one thing in her many months of doing this, and that was that there was a FISA court authorization against someone in the Trump administration. But all the other allegations she's made have turned out to be not only wrong, but insanely wrong. For example, she has a list of suspected Russian agents. Now, if that reminds you of the original McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy, it should, except that McCarthy only named some of them. She has named many people as absolute or probable Russian agents, and it gets absolutely absurd. There was an article about her in BuzzFeed recently. Now, this is not just somebody on the fringe. Louise Mensch she had an op-ed in the New York Times. She was on the Bill Maher show. She has been cited and quoted by top Democrats, including Donna Brazile, who was at one point the head of the DNC. Now, she is convinced that there are many people who she thinks are paid trolls and or stooges or spies for the Republican Party, including Matt Taibbi, who writes for Rolling Stone. Now, in classic McCarthyite fashion, Matt Taibbi got named as a possible Russian agent because he had the temerity, to write that he thought the Russia business had gotten out of hand. Sometimes she just does that based on disagreeing with her. Now, she named someone named Naveed Jamali, a former FBI agent. She accused him of being a Russian agent. He denies it. She did not back up the allegations. A political strategist named Evan Siegfried was called a Kremlin troll by Mensch. He also has formally denied it. She has provided no evidence of that. Nevertheless, she says, if anything, the number of Russian agents she has identified has been understated. She says, although she has named 210 people, I'm quite certain the number is going to be much larger. But she says she determines that someone is a Russian agent depending on either intelligence from sources, their actions, their words, such as tweets, or other primary source material. She provided, as we say, no evidence about whether why she accused these two gentlemen of being on the Russian payroll. She has said Kevin Rothrock, the web editor of the Moscow Times, she refers to him as Vlad, meaning that he is an agent of Vladimir Putin. She did that after Rothrock chided Louise Mensch for tweeting the dumbest S blank blank T. So in other words, if you criticize Louise Mensch, there is a very good chance she will call you a Russian spy. That is very, very similar to what Joe McCarthy used to do. Now, Matt Taibbi, who I mentioned earlier, last week in an article in Rolling Stone, Matt Taibbi, who has some background in Russia, once lived and worked there, wrote that we were seeing a renewed case of mass hysteria against Russia among politicians and journalists. Mensch speculated that that Taibbi, quote, might be a Russian agent. Once again, true to form, when asked why she believed that, she did not respond. She did not answer. This is absolutely classic McCarthyism, and yet Louise Mensch is a darling of many Democratic neoliberal establishment figures. Now, similarly, the flip side of this is that the same establishment figures have an extreme dislike for any journalist that reports facts they don't like. Now, I'm told that Glenn Greenwald can be abrasive, but I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that he is an excellent writer on national security issues. The latest inversion of the Louise Mensch phenomenon is that people have been taking a tweet from Glenn Greenwald out of context in order to claim that he doesn't like leaks when they're anti-Trump, but that he likes them when they're against Obama or a Democrat. In fact, what Glenn Greenwald tweeted was about all the leaks that are hurting Trump was, it's amazing how little condemnation these leaks get. I'm quoting Glenn Greenwald's Trump. Disclosure of content of intercepted calls is one of the most serious of crimes. Now, he immediately went on to say, this leak doesn't bother me very much, but it's interesting how there's a double standard. That's the gist of what he went on to say. Now, all sorts of mainstream Democratic and national security figures immediately took the one tweet without the other to accuse Greenwald of having a double standard instead. Again, we see, now here's a typical example, a tweet. Greenwald being against leaks now and downplaying Trump's Russia ties pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Or there is Joan Walsh, the mainstream Democratic journalist, who said of Nina Turner, who is a great political figure, African-American woman from Ohio, supported Bernie Sanders, recently commented that in the part of the country where she lives, people aren't concerned about Russia. They're concerned about how to get by in their daily lives, to which Joan Walsh's response was to the effect of, gee, I wonder why she's so anxious to downplay Russia. So in other words, if you say something that this branch of the Democratic Party doesn't like, they're more than willing to throw the Russia accusation against you. I don't know about you, but this really bothers me. This really does seem to be the use of Russia, which, by the way, is no longer our ideological enemy. The biggest problem with Putin is that he's an oligarch. He's too much like the oligarchs who run this country. And maybe that will turn out to be the connection, if there is one, between Putin and Trump. My guess, if there's a connection, it's going to be about following the money. But look, these guys are not the only ones who are spreading what I would call Democratic fake news. As another article points out in Vox, which is pretty Democratic friendly, so I wouldn't say this is a hostile news outlet. There was a good piece recently by Zach Beauchamp pointing out that you can read stories that Trump is about to resign because of the Russia scandal, that Bernie Sanders and Sean Hannity are both Russian agents, that the Russians paid off House Oversight Chair Jason Chaffetz, that they paid him $10 million using Trump as their go-between, that Ayn Rand, who is loved by the right, was a secret Russian agent charged with discrediting the American conservative movement. Now, to be fair, It's not true, but I like it, because what they're basically saying is that this hero of the American right was such an idiot, and she makes them all look like idiots. Yeah, well, maybe I'll embrace that one. So there's Louise Mensch. There are these other outlets that say this crazy stuff, that Mitch McConnell funneled Russian money to Trump. Look, let's put it this way. If there's no evidence whatsoever to back something up, and if it sounds crazy, it's fake news. Now, could it become real news? Sure, it could. Absolutely. Once there's evidence. But if there's no evidence and you're repeating it, especially if you're repeating it, A, to defend your political candidate and your political point of view, and B, to slander and smear people with whom you disagree politically, and especially I'm thinking of centrist Democrats attacking the left this way, you are spreading fake news. You are no better than Donald Trump and Steve Bannon. That is the sum total of it.